Hello, welcome to Bard's Craft. Today I'm gonna do something dwarven where I can put lots of grass flocking. I have already made a beautiful plan here. They're getting better. We got a waystone, trees, crystals and all the good stuff. Let's see what we can make happen. First I found myself some junk hardboard and made a base. Hardboard is quite easy to work with. You can actually cut it with a knife. That should do. Dwarf for scale, good. I wanted to add some volume to the ground around these parts, so I took some XPS foam and cut out a few thin sheets that can be used to build some elevation change. I roughly shaped the bits and then glued them on. After a while I shaped the foam to look like natural slopes. Looks good. Let's do the waystone itself next, using some foam. Nope. We're making it from the sacred oath packages instead. You don't actually need foam to start crafting. I quickly designed a cutout for the main part of the waystone. This should be easy to glue together using some PVA glue. First I folded the cutout with the help of a ruler. Then I applied glue. Yeah, it works. I then shaped the bottom a bit and glued it on to the diorama. Next I also made two smaller pillar thingies. Same design but tiny. I cut out even tinier strips to create some details on the small pillars. I also finished the tops with two square bits. Looks good, but we can do even better using spruce for the large pillar. I cleaned up the plastic and got these beautiful bits that I glued around the pillar. Next I designed and cut out these beautiful pieces, then glued them onto the sides. I'll create some Dwarven Runes on these later. Should look very good. I also made some short spruce bits and superglued them onto the corners. I cut them at an angle. Before continuing with the crystal, I made the stones from bark. I had some bits that were sawed earlier, so these will look different from the usual bark stone textures. I attached this with plenty of glue. Great. Next I went out to the forest of enlightenment and plentiful craft materials. Here I found some dry branches that I'll use to make the crystals. I cut and whittled the sticks to a tapering square shape. It should be something like this. Yeah, that should do. Then I sawed the bottom of the crystal flat. These were actually super easy to do, so I made plenty of them in many sizes. They should also be much better than, let's say, something out of foam, because they are harder and have sharper textures and completely smooth surfaces. Good, I glued these on. Let these crystals and the cardstock be a reminder that anyone can learn to make epic terrain. You don't need expensive tools, materials or skills. Well, skill is important, especially because you can improve yours. That's why I want to talk to you about Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community where you can find just the right classes to get inspired and better. Perhaps you want to improve storytelling for your favorite tabletop games, or learn how to get those epic shots of miniatures and terrain. I actually went through a course, Productivity for Creatives by Thomas Frank. Definitely something I needed. Not waiting for inspiration to strike, but rather building a schedule and self-discipline to cultivate consistent creativity was something very useful he talked about. Sounds good. Well, lucky you. The first 1,000 people to use the link in my description will get a free trial to Skillshare Premium so you can explore your creativity. What if you started your own channel on YouTube? You could start a business and be useful. On Skillshare, you'll definitely get aid in your journey to becoming something. So go check it out and thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Alright, for creating the crystal of the Waystone, I needed a bigger branch. Yeah, that's good. I cut the wood as before and got the crystal into perfect shape. However, let's improve it with some bits of spruce. Always make sure to save some of the spruce from your model kits. Super useful. Okay, let's make the pavement from cardstock as well. XPS foam is a solid option, but cardstock is something even you can get your hands on. No excuses. The peasant level crafter never finds excuses and never complains. That is the only advantage he has over the ordinary man. As sand and rubble textures, I glued on finely chopped bark bits. I made sure to get it in all corners and also applied some on the pavement. Next, I have another reason to get a few nature shots. Trees. This is my go-to juniper tree that has lots of near perfect dead branches for making miniature trees. I took a few good-looking twigs, put them in my pocket, and then tried them on the diorama. This one should be good, if I cut it a bit shorter. Nice, I poked the tree in, along with plenty of glue. The extra glue is covered with bark choppings or sand. The area behind the Waystone was looking a bit empty, so I glued another smaller tree there. While I waited for that to dry, I also applied diluted glue on the ground in order to keep the bark bits well in place. After one eternity, I chose to base coat by brush in order to not get any spray paint on the trees. Brown for the ground and crystals, black for the rest. A watered down paint and tapping motions get the paint into all difficult spots. Okay, I began by painting the Waystone. Dry brushed it with a dark grey. I was impressed by what I saw before me. Those few extra cardstock bits and the sharp edges of the spruce bits sure make a big difference. I also went ahead and brushed the pavement. Again, wow. Previously, I have made pretty successful cardstock tiles and such, for example these. But now it looks much better. I believe the small tiles are optimal for cardstock. In that way, the lack of texture is not noticeable. To add some color, I made a dark purple-ish wash and applied it onto the stones. This will be slightly visible under the next layers of paint. I also dry brushed the stones with a grey. Next I applied some watery greenish brown on some spots of the ground. This makes the ground look more natural in variants of color. Right now it does look pretty horrible though. I also painted the ground with the grey, dry brushing on areas where there are larger rocks and rubble. This paint job is easy. You can do it even if you're a beginner. I continued by using the greatest color conceived by the army painter, Draketooth. I dry brushed everything. I'm still patiently waiting for that sponsorship. On the pavement, I made sure to create a few more weathered areas. I simply brushed more. The ground looks okay now, but we'll improve it with green and brown washes after the grass is applied. The grass is super simple. Cut a bunch of hemp rope. Think where you want the most grass and applied watered down PVA glue accordingly. Then you throw on the grass. When you toss on the flocking, you can be messy. The excess comes off easily. You can also add more later. I did that to get smoother transitions from grass patch to rubble by adding just a bit more. I also made sure to add some more overgrowth on the pavement. After working for a while, I also added some on these stones and a little on top of the waystone. Very good. If you remember little details such as these, your terrain will always look a bit better. While the glue dries, we can paint details on the waystone. I carefully painted with copper. I had a hard time not painting all of the spruce bits. It was tempting, but I left them grey. It already looks very good. Next I dry brushed with gold. I was able to not hit any of the grey surfaces. Great. Finally I did a partial edge highlight with white, even though we're supposed to be less white now, right? Edgy highlights are always an easy way to bring extra contrast to your work. Oops. Next we can add some more beautiful grass in the shape of tufts. These simple tufts make the grass look more voluminous, and they are also perfect to place near rocks or trees. In order to not disappoint yourself, make sure to add many tufts of various sizes. They stay well in place if you dip them properly into glue. Now this is a good autumn look. You could paint it as I did in this diorama. However, the grass is green today. I used oil paint mixed in white spirit, an oil wash. The wash is simply applied on the grass. Make sure to not cover exactly everything. It's good to leave some wilted grass around. Okay, the green color seems a bit off. Not exactly what is promised on the paint tube. Adding some yellow would make the grass more lively. I don't have yellow oil paint, so let's try just brushing with a better green. It's good that we already have some green in the flocking. This will only hit the top. The reason I prefer oil washes is that they flow well into most textures, including the grass. This worked better than expected. Perhaps I'm overhyping the oil wash for flocking. Next time I'll try just brushing on colors. Less steps to make the grass. As you can see, I also brushed some areas with a vibrant yellowish green color. Looking at this, I knew that orange will be a good color for the crystals. The brown base coat also works perfectly for that. I first dry brushed the crystals with orange. They are very easy to paint because the edges do most of the work for me. Also, because I can't fully reach the bottom of the crystals, I'll get a nice, effortless brown to orange transition. After the orange, I dry brushed with a yellower orange. I brushed mostly on the top half. Make sure to be patient while dry brushing. Getting too much paint on is a quick way to ruin something. Next I brushed the edges with just yellow. Then I also highlighted the edges with white. I was extra careful with the big crystal to not mess it up. Moving on to something interesting. I got a suggestion to try out exotic spruce flowers as shown in a video by Tyrannosaur. So I did just that. I managed to cut spruce bits into interesting shapes. These will surely work. I painted these with purple and then highlighted some of them with pink and others with a beautiful blue. I glued them on when I was happy with the painting. I did what I called smart placements, in order to slightly hide the uglier sides of the flower. I think it worked. Meanwhile, I also got some more wilted grass on the diorama, which was needed. Let's create the Dwarven Runes next. I started by seeing how it works on the least visible side first, in case I mess up. Perhaps the ancient dwarves who built these did likewise. I used a white gel pen instead of a brush to create random scribblings I just made up. The trees did make it a bit trickier. At least I was able to later add some dots and lines if I was not happy with my dwarven art. I also attempted to draw Dwarven Runes of Power on the little pillars. The spell failed, but looks good enough on camera. The white gel pen is a small crafting hack. You can quickly improve edge highlights. Also, the main crystal was a bit lacking, so I decided to almost ruin it with some shaky lines. Not sure if that was good. Now a quick brownish oil wash should tie all of our work together. I applied the wash a bit everywhere. Most importantly, it adds some color to the pillars and stones of the pavement. I still decided to add a skeleton, skulls and a weapon. I painted these quickly with simple colors. I glued the skeleton behind the main pillar. It would make sense that he wanted his death to be a bit less public. The skull goes here, and after that I applied washes. I prefer to use pre-made washes for small stuff. I also applied wash to darken some spots of the trees. I considered making peasant level tree flocking, but decided to skip it. I'll actually send this diorama to the Eldritch Foundry. They'll use this for product shots of their custom miniatures, which is pretty cool. Well, this diorama exceeded all my expectations. The cardstock bits just work so well with the highlights and runes, and the wooden crystals must be the most fun thing I've done in a while. Make sure to give them a try. Now go ahead and subscribe, share the video if you enjoyed it, or if you want to support the channel to a greater extent, you can join me on Patreon, where we can even talk and plan a build together. Thanks for watching Bard's Craft. I'll see you in the next video.